welcome to the live. Wow, 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 wow. All I can say is wow. The actual fact that we got shut down the way we got shut down, I don't know much more of what to say. Guys, if you are jumping in and you were in before, just write in the chat, I'm back. If you were in the chat prior, just write in the chat, I'm back. If you are someone who was inside of the house before we got chucked out, just write in the chat, I'm back. And if you're someone who's here for the first time, just write first time in the chat. Wow, that was literally a different experience. I don't even know what else to say, guys. That was literally a different experience. That has happened to us once before in the past, but I was absolutely shocked that it happened to us today with all of the technology working the way that all of the technology usually works. Guys, if you are inside of this live and you were getting value before, feel free to literally let me know in the chat. We had this comment literally come in, yes, sir, how are you doing? By Dabzino, and straight after Dabzino threw that comment in, the live didn't need to survive. The live didn't want to survive. Guys. All right, guys, we are in the house here for you to add value to you. Let me know. I asked before, I'm going to ask again. Let me know where you're tuning in from. Are you in the UK? Are you in the US of A? Are you in Australasia? Are you in Asia? Let me know in the chat where you are joining us from. Let us know in the chat where you're joining us from. Are you in the UK? Are you in the US of A? Are you in Australasia? Are you in Asia? Or are you in Mama Africa? Let me know where you are tuning in from, because literally what just happened was not expected, definitely not planned. So with that being said, we're going to jump straight back into our session. Wow. Wow. For those of you who were in before, just write in the chat, I was here before. And for those of you who've come back for more, just write in the chat, I've come back for more. So we were breaking down, guys. As you guys jump in the chat, as you guys jump into the live, feel free to let us know where you're tuning in from. But we were breaking down just before we got cut off. We were breaking down how certain things work. We were speaking specifically about inflation, and I shared with you guys the quick story about how my head of math said to me that basically we were going to go and strike. And he said we were going to strike. This was back in 2013, 2014. He said we were going to strike because we were not going to get paid our 1% annual raise. Okay. We were not going to get paid our 1% annual raise. Now, I just want to make sure that all my people are in the house. So guys, if you guys are in the house, if you've jumped into the session, feel free to say I'm here. If you've jumped into the session, feel free to say I'm here. If you've jumped into the session, feel free to say I'm here. Let me know that you guys are with me. Let me know that you guys are in the house. Let me know that you guys are here rocking and rolling. All right, we've got Glory in the chat. Let's go. The chat is popping off. All right, let's go. All right, we are back in session. I'm seeing the amens in the chat. Okay, my people are here. Let's go. All right, guys, I do apologize. It wasn't planned. It was not planned. It was not planned for us to have the crash. But like I said, we literally had one comment come through from one of you guys. And straight after that comment came through, I think it was Dabzino. Dabzino was like, hey, sir, how are you doing? And the whole live literally just crashed down. So, guys, as you jump in the live, just jump back in the live and let me know you guys are back with us live. Just jump back in the live. Let me know you guys are back with us live. All right. So we started off by talking about the difference between incremental and exponential growth. We mentioned the fact that many people are living lives with incremental growth. And I defined what incremental growth was. I said incremental growth is growing in increments. And that's when I drew this graph and said, guys, this is what incremental growth looks like. Incremental growth looks like steady, slow growth. It's growth that occurs over time in a very incremental fashion. And then I said to you, but exponential growth has different kinds of curves, but effectively exponential growth is when someone grows at an exponential rate. Okay. Let me ask this question before I even go deeper. Do you want incremental growth or do you want exponential growth? Okay. Which one do you desire in your life? Which one do you require in your life? Are you doing things so you can have incremental growth in increments? Or are you doing things so you can have exponential growth in exponents? Okay. Let me know in the chat so I can know who we're speaking with today. All right. Because this is the way life works. Life works in a very interesting way where most people are focused on getting incremental growth when there's an opportunity for us all to actually get exponential growth. So let me tell you a very simple, quick story. In 2013, 2014, I worked in a school. I worked as a secondary and A-level math teacher. In the school I worked in, I was getting a salary of £36,000 per year, okay? That £36,000 salary that I was generating each and every year was my primary main income, £36,000. And one day I go to work, and whilst I'm at work, the head of my department, the head of math, says to me, Samuel, next week we're going to strike. And I'm like, strike? What's that mean? Okay. And he says to me, well, striking is when we come to work, but we don't go to work. So I said, okay, tell me more. He said, well, what we're going to do next week is we're going to show up to work, but instead of coming to work and teaching the children, we're going to stand at the gate, and some of us are going to have signs, and we're going to be basically doing a mini protest. So I asked the greatest question. I asked the question we should all ask, okay? I asked the question you should ask. I asked the question that the children often ask and adults very rarely ask, okay? Anyone know what that question is? It's a 3-letter word question. And you throw the question mark on the end. The question that when children ask us, we think, why do you keep asking that? I asked the head of maths, why? I said, why? Like, why are we striking? You're telling me next week we're striking. I'd like to know why. So I asked him why. Guess what he said? He said, because of the pay rise freezes. So I said, the pay rise freezes, can you explain to me what the pay rise freezes are? And he explained to me that the government decide every year how much our income is increased by. Okay, as teachers, because we work in schools, the government make those rules. So he says to me, every year, the government make a decision on how much your pay can be increased. And he said, usually it's 1%. Okay, usually it's 1%. Typically it's 1%. So he says to me, because it's usually 1%, we're usually happy with the 1%. But he says, they've said they're not going to do 1% this year. They've said instead they are going to freeze the pay rise. So I said, okay, freeze the pay rise. Okay, this is new to me. So I said to him, okay, how much is the pay rise? Okay, because I was genuinely interested. So I said, how much is the pay rise? He says to me, the pay rise, this is what cracked me up. He says to me, the pay rise, this is what made me laugh. He said to me, the pay rise that they have put on freeze, that they've put on hold, is 1%. He said, we usually have a 1% pay rise every single year, but that's what they've put on hold. So I said, okay, interesting, right? So then I actually calculated what 1% of my £36,000 per year salary was, okay? Now at the time, I was being paid £36,000 a year, so 1% of that was £360 for the year. Now, like I said earlier before we got shut out, right? Tesco says every little helps. So I'm not here to complain about an extra £360 a year, okay? And I don't think you should either, no matter how much money you make, right? But he says this to me. He says there's a pay rise freeze and they don't want to give us our 1%. And if they don't give us our 1%, I knew for me that meant next year I wouldn't get an extra £360. Okay? Now let's go deeper with this. So he told me this, and this was interesting stuff. But what really stood out to me was when I started to actually jump into this. I started to actually really scratch my head and think about this. And when I started scratching my head to think about this, I started to think about things like inflation. Someone write in the chat the word inflation. Now, for those of you who don't know what inflation is, let me explain it to you. Inflation is the rate at which our money gets weaker. And we are told, and they don't tell us the truth, but we are told, and they don't tell us the truth, and we are told, and I'll say it again in case you need to pick up your pen, they do not tell us the truth. We are told inflation works at a 3% per year rate. Someone throw in the chat, 3%. We are told that inflation is going against our money at 3% per year. Okay? Laurent says sauna convos. What kind of sauna convos? Let me know. Let me know what that means. Let me know what that means, Laurent. I don't know what that means. So we are told that our money gets weaker at a speed of 3% per year. That's a negative 3% every single year. What does that mean? I'm going to tell you what that means. That means if at the beginning of the year, okay, let's go, Lauren, I see you. That means if at the beginning of the year, your loaf of bread costs you £1, At the end of the year, if they're correct, that inflation is working at a negative 3%, that means at the end of the year, the same loaf of bread that cost you £1, by the end of that year now costs you £1.03. That's inflation. Inflation is the speed at which your money gets weaker. And the way we see it show up in our world is by things getting more expensive. So I want you to do some very simple maths with me right now. I want you to see the maths that I saw when my head of department was telling me we're going to strike next week because we're not going to get a 1% raise. Okay, because this was phenomenal to me. Okay, and you got to bear in mind at the time I am a maths teacher. I'm working in a maths department, so everyone in the maths department does maths. Okay, so we all do maths. And guess what I realized when I did the maths? I said, well, hold on a minute. We are going to strike and risk losing our whole job, our whole salary. At the time, my salary was £36,000 a year. You want me to strike and risk losing my whole £36,000 a year because I'm not going to get a 1% raise. That's 1% going up from the government. But I just shared with you guys that inflation is minus 3% going down. Oh Lord, someone's already done the maths. What does that mean? This means I was being encouraged to strike so that even if we win, even if we win, I still end up with a negative 2% down. This is a good question. Lorenz asked a very good question. Samuel, are you sure it's minus 3%? I'm sure it's not, Lorenz. I'm just telling you guys what we're told it is. If you go and Google itself will tell you that inflation is more than negative 3%. And by more than negative 3%, that means really less than negative 3%. But if you actually do the maths and study, because my undergraduate degree is in statistics, most of the things I've studied, Debo, 10, thank you for the like. Most of the things I've studied mathematically in terms of my qualifications are in the field of statistics, which means I know how to calculate the maths of inflation. And when I calculate the maths of inflation, guess what I find? It's nowhere near 3%. But for the benefit of the doubt, they say that inflation is at negative 3%. So I'm just, for the benefit of the doubting, using the negative 3%. So my head of maths is describing to me why people strike, why we should strike, that we should strike, how we should strike. And I'm saying to myself, no, it can't be a positive 3% because your money doesn't get stronger every year. Your money gets weaker every year, Lauren. Okay, so it's not plus 3%, it's minus 3%. Inflation, we're talking about inflation. Okay? So I'm saying to myself, hold on a minute, my head of maths, he's asking me to actually strike. And if I decide to strike, if I take him up on his suggestion, I'm going to be putting at risk my full salary of £36,000 with the hope to gain a 1% raise of 1%, which works out to £360. But I'm living in a world where they say we've got a negative 3% inflation, which means even if I get the 1% raise, I'm still in a world in negative 2% days. Now, you might be asking yourself, Samuel, why is this even important? In the middle of the night in the UK, Samuel, why did you jump online to say that there's a difference between incremental and exponential growth? Because most of us don't realize this. Because when I was working full time, to be honest with you, I didn't realize this. It wasn't until I had this conversation with my head of maths that I started to realize this. I started to realize I'm living in a world where the best thing that's going to happen to me, based on how I've set things up, is for me to make money in an incremental fashion instead of discovering that there's a way I can do this in an exponential fashion. Okay? I'm doing things in an incremental fashion rather than in an exponential fashion. All right, I like this. Laurent said an interesting comment. Laurent says, but I think inflation is positive right now. Okay, inflation being positive is a very unlikely thing in reality. Okay, just so you guys know, inflation, okay, inflation, okay, it's how your money is becoming inflated. Okay, your money is becoming weaker because of something called quantitative easing. Okay, for those of you who don't know, and I didn't really want to get into the extremities of it, but let's go. Laurent is on board, so let's do this. Okay, the country we live in, the UK, most of these first world nations that are around us, which are including the US of A, Australasia, okay, and you guys let me know in the chat where you're tuning in from. Are you in the UK? Are you in the US of A? Are you in Australasia? Are you in Asia? Are you in Mother Africa? Let me know. Throw in the chat where you're tuning in from. For those of us who are in the UK, we would know that the cost of our money is going down. Okay, Rube says UK London, let's go. Okay, the cost of your money is going down. The value of your money is reducing. How does the value of your money reduce? It reduces by the cost of goods going up. Okay, not the cost of raw materials, the cost of to the market materials. So if you are paying slightly more for things like the bus, okay, someone tell me in the chat, do you pay less for the bus each year or more for the bus each year? Okay, if you're paying more for things like your mobile phone bill, someone tell me in the chat, do you pay less, L-E-S-S, each year or more, M-O-R-E, each year? Then that's how you start to understand how inflation works. Inflation doesn't steal money from your bank account. Inflation increases the cost of the things your bank account uses money for. Okay, that's how it works. Okay, so hopefully that helps you guys. Okay, and this is good. Laurent says, yeah, but cost of goods are going up. That's how inflation works. When you want to calculate inflation, if you want to do it mathematically, what you do, what the statisticians do, is they go and find usually 26 to 30 things that most households often buy. And when they find those things, they calculate how much those things cost on average. And then they calculate a percentage of the amount that they cost per average or on average. And then every year they do that. And if the things are going up each year, then inflation continues to increase each year. Okay? Right? So that's how it works. Okay, I like that. Yes, Laurent's got it. That's the CPI, right? Yes, that's a component of how they find that calculation. All right? So guys, this is how money is literally being taken out of people's pockets through means of many different ways, inflation being one of them. Okay? So the question is today, do you desire incremental growth or do you desire exponential growth? Okay, this is my question. I'm genuinely curious about. I'd love for you guys to let me know in the chat. Okay, so throw it in the chat, increment or exponent. Okay, I or E, let me see. Okay, do you guys desire incremental growth or exponential growth? Because obviously a great question you might be saying to yourself is, Samuel, I don't know how to create exponential growth. I don't even know what you're talking about when you're talking about exponential growth. Well, congratulations, you're in the right place. You're in the right space being on this live. Okay. But I would like to know from you guys, are you someone who's stuck and just saying, you know what, I'm just going to stick where I am. I'm going to stay with this incremental growth. Maybe you're like me in 2013, 2014 on a fixed salary of £36,000. Maybe you're striking for your 1% raise. I don't know what you're doing for the rest of your days. Maybe that's your situation. Okay. But I want you guys to let me know, what is it that you are working on? Are you working on producing exponential growth? Or are you happy to stick with the incremental growth? Okay. Rube says exponential growth returns more growth, but incremental growth would grow more in the short term. Okay. The answer to that is it depends. Okay. It depends. Rubes, that's a great comment. And I love this because we got a highly intelligent audience we can see, even though it's quite late at night in the UK or early in the morning in the UK. Right? But the answer to that, Rubes, is it depends. What does it depend on, Samuel? It depends on what exponential growth curve we're talking about. There are exponential growth curves that go down to go up. And there are exponential growth curves that just keep going up. Okay? So a squared curve, for example, 5 squared is 25. It only ever goes up. Okay? So it depends on the exponential growth we're talking about. But nonetheless, that is a very good comment. All right? So I love that. You guys are open to discovery and seeing. So let's talk about this a bit more. Okay? Incremental versus exponential growth. Okay? So I'm going to share something with you. The job I had 2013 to 2014, making 36,000 a year, was an incremental methodology of growth. Okay, Samuel, why do you say that? I'm going to tell you why. Because I left that job to go work in another school in 2014 to 2015 academic year, and they paid me £47,000. Now, here's the thing I'm going to tell you, which you might not be ready for. That was still incremental. Okay? Now, some of you might say, no, Samuel, that was an exponential growth. You increased by an £11,000 pay rise. Yes, it was £11,000 more. It was more, but it was an incremental increase. It was not an exponential increase. Okay? I hope someone's understanding what I'm talking about today. Yes, let's go. Let's go. Gypsy's got it. By virtue of the fact it is a linear increase, makes it an incremental increase, not an exponential increase. Gypsy's got it. Now look, if you see what I was sharing at the top of the live, this is exactly the difference, guys. Are we growing in increments or are we growing in exponents? This is something we have to start asking ourselves. Okay? Gypsy followed the profile. Thank you, Gypsy, for the follow. All right? And for those of you who are getting any value in this session, feel free to do the same. Feel free to hit the follow. Feel free to hit the like. Gypsy liked the live. Let's go. All right? Because, guys, this is what's happening in most of our lives. I don't know if you're like me, if you're a husband. I don't know if you're like me, if you're a dad. I don't know if you're like me. You're someone who likes to add value, give value to your community, give values to your friends and family. I don't know if you're like me. You've got elderly parents who you've got to take care of. I don't know if you're like me, you're someone who's thinking, well, later on in life, I'd like to actually enjoy the fruit of my labor. I don't know if you're like me, or I don't know if you're like somebody else. Somebody who doesn't care what happens to you. But I'm here to tell you something. You and I make a decision every day. Do we want to get incrementally or exponentially paid? We get to decide that. We get to decide that. And yes, you've got the online guys. Oh yeah, I make money online all day. You've got the traders. Yes, guys, I trade. You got all of this stuff. Guys, look, let me tell you, it doesn't matter. As long as what you do is legal and ethical, it doesn't matter what you do. It starts with a decision about whether you want to be paid incrementally or exponentially. That's what it starts with. I'm going to say something, okay? We got coaches out here, okay? Facts, okay? I coach people, so let me use coaching as an example. We have coaching out here. We have coaches out here. Coaches who have decided to coach one-on-one, okay? Less than 24 hours ago, I was invited on an interview for a very popular magazine in the UK. They wanted to write an article on me. So I sat down online with this amazing lady, the chief editor of the magazine, and she's asking me all these questions. And as she's asking me all these questions, I'm thinking to myself, this is interesting because what's going to happen is lots of people are going to read this magazine and lots of people are going to hear about me. And I said something to her. She asked me a question. She said, Samuel, do you do one-to-one coaching? I said, no, I don't do one-to-one coaching. I stopped doing one-to-one coaching about 8 years ago. And then she asked me why, and I explained why. But it made me think about doing this live today. It made me think about the fact that some people have tied themselves, handcuffed themselves, shackled and chained themselves to incremental growth. Guys, someone write this in the chat. One-on-one coaching is incremental growth. Okay, guys, I'm not saying this to rain on your parade. I'm saying this to show you the mathematics of the money you've made. That's all this is. I wouldn't be a good wealth coach if I didn't share with you the maths. Now I get it. Some of you are going to say, oh, Samuel, I don't like maths. Samuel, I'm scared of maths. Samuel, I was no good at maths in school. Guys, you're not in school anymore. It's not a good enough excuse anymore. And I'm not saying it to say you need to learn Pythagoras theorem. I'm not saying it to say you need to learn trigonometry. I'm not saying it to say you need to learn sine, cosine, and tangent. And yes, I know all of that stuff because I used to be a maths teacher. But I'm saying it to say the basic maths that get you paid, you should take some time and figure it out for the rest of your days. And here's a beautiful thing. It's not that hard. As an ex-maths teacher, I can honestly tell you guys, it's not that hard. And I'm not telling you that because I used to teach maths. I'm not telling you that because I got a degree in a maths related subject. No, I'm telling you that because I have coaching clients and students who have got levels of success. And guess what I've discovered with them? It's not that hard. They're the same people that said in school, I'm no good at maths. They're the same people that say to me, Samuel, you know I'm not that good at maths. Guys, I tell them, don't worry. I'll be your maths teacher. You'll manage. Let me ask this question. Does anybody want to see the kind of messages I get from my students, okay? If there's anyone on this live, I don't usually do this, but I'll do this, right? If you do, let's do this. Let's get an effect up. If you do, just write the word me in the chat. M-E, me in the chat. If you would like to see the kind of messages I get from my students, all right? To show you, maths is not hard once you know what you're doing. The maths of life, the maths of exponential growth instead of incremental growth is not hard, all right? Reese Davies, News Free, followed the platform. Thank you ever so much, Reese Davies, New Free. Hopefully I'm saying that correctly. It's Reese, I assume, right? Reese, let me know if I'm saying that correctly. All right? So guys, is there anyone tonight or this morning who would like to see the kind of messages I get from my students, okay? The kind of messages I get from my students. Just throw the word me in the chat, okay? Reese says, yep, that's right. Thank you, Reese, appreciate you. All right? Let me know in the chat, guys, if you would like to know, if you'd like to see, just write me, because I've got some of these inside of the actual system in the platform ready to go, because I coach people. They ask me sometimes, Samuel, what kind of results do you get for your students? Okay, so if anyone would like to know, just write the word me in the chat. Now, whilst you guys are deciding whether you want to know or not, let's jump in a bit deeper. Let's talk a bit more about the difference between incremental growth and exponential growth. Incremental growth is what most people are getting. Someone write in the chat the word most. Most people are getting incremental growth, and that's okay for them, okay? But that doesn't have to be your story. You can change your story, okay? You can change your story. You can change your story from a story that ends gory to a story that has glory. You can change your story. Samuel, how can I change my story? I'll give you the fastest way. Decide. Decide. Okay? And I know you haven't really heard what that word means before, but I would encourage you to decide. Okay? Should we talk about this word? Let's talk about this word, because otherwise you guys are going to think, Samuel, this is crazy. What do you mean I've not heard what that means before? I know what the word decide means. Okay, let's talk about it. There's a word called homicide. Okay? Does anyone know what the word homicide means? Okay, let's talk about this. The word homicide. Okay, I'll tell you what the word homicide means. Homicide is a compound word. First part is homo, okay, which means same. Same. Homo means same. Side means to cut off. Cut off. So that means the word homicide means to cut off someone who is the same as you. This is why a human being killing an animal is not called homicide. It's called murder or killing an animal, okay? But when a human being kills another human being, it's called homicide. Okay? If someone's understanding what I'm talking about, just write in the comments, I do, so I know you guys are getting this. Okay? So we started with the word homicide. Homicide, homo means same, side means to cut off. So if you cut off the life of someone the same as yourself, you have committed homicide. Hopefully this is helpful for you guys. All right, let's use this maths and let's go deeper. Okay, that was homicide. Let's use another word so we can start to understand what this word decide means. Okay, the next word we're going to use is a word called suicide. Okay, the word suicide. Does anyone know what the word suicide means? Let me tell you what the word suicide means. Suicide means, well, side is a compound, which also means to cut off. It means the same thing. Why? Because it's not going to mean a different thing. It is the same thing. But what does sui mean? Sui means, it's actually Latin, which breaks down to mean one's self. So the word suicide, based on its compound root meaning, means when someone cuts off themselves, to cut off the life of oneself. So what have we discovered? Well, I'll tell you what we've discovered. We've discovered that this compound part of a word side, which is also here in this side, means to cut off. Oh, Samuel, you're already changing my mind because I never thought this side meant anything to do with being cut off. Yes, it does, guys. Let's go into it. Homicide means to cut off one that is the same as yourself. Suicide means to cut off one, which is oneself. Decide means of or from. Samuel, what does that mean? I'm so glad you asked. That means to decide. When you make a decision, what you're doing is you're being cut off from all other options. You're being cut off of all other options. You see, most people don't realize that a decision and a choice are not the same thing. When you choose, you pick one of some. When you decide, you are cut off from every other one. Two completely different things. That's why if you decide to get married, you won't be cheating on your wife. Because when you decide to get married, you cut yourself off from all other options. Why, on the other hand, when some people choose to get married, you guys can fill out the rest of the blank. You see, I want you guys to understand how the world works. Sometimes what we do is we use the same words, but we don't understand what those words actually mean. We say stuff, but we don't actually understand what we're really saying. We don't realize that the reason why there's so many people having issues maybe in their marriages is because they've chosen to be married rather than decided to be married. We don't realize why so many people are having issues in their finances because they've chosen to make money exponentially instead of decided to make money exponentially. If this is helping someone, just write me in the chat. If someone's getting value, just write the word me in the chat. Because I want you guys to understand how things work. It's easy to say, oh yeah, I understand how people are making incremental revenue. I want to make exponential revenue. Okay, what are you doing to make exponential revenue? Like I said, if you're a coach and you're out there, Factors, thank you for the likes. If you're a coach and you're out there and you're doing one-on-one coaching, okay, this is just for the coaches out there. Most of my clients are usually not coaches. I do have some coaches in our Wealth in Words community. But if you're a coach and you're doing one-to-one coaching, you are not deciding to make exponential revenue. Why? Because you've not cut yourself off from situations that are going to create you exponential revenue. Excuse me, incremental revenue. To make exponential revenue, you need to position yourself in the flow of the river. That's what cash flow is all about. Cash flow. Currency. Currency, root word comes from the word current. Oh, this is a bit too much for someone. It's okay. This is a great time to say this. If you are getting value, be sure to hit the follow, hit subscribe, hit the like, do all of that stuff. Maybe share if you care. Let's go deeper. So guys, sometimes we just got to decide. We've got to decide that we don't want to generate income in a soft and sad way anymore. We don't want to generate incremental income. We want to shift and start to generate exponential income. Okay? Now, someone said a comment earlier, which I think is actually quite interesting. It was Rubes. Rubes said something which I thought was super powerful. Factors TV, thank you for following the host. Rubes said exponential growth returns more growth, but incremental growth would grow more in the short term. Okay? That's not exactly true. Okay? Like I did share this earlier when Rubes wrote the comment, just so everyone could get this. It depends on the growth curve of your increments. Excuse me, of the exponents, right? If you have a specific exponential growth curve, you will have continuous growth even in the short term, bigger. It is possible, okay? It is possible, okay? But it depends. Be like the life. Thank you, B, for liking the life. All right, now let's get into something, okay? I'm gonna show you guys something, right? So this is my old job as a maths teacher. Math teacher, let's say I started on 0 because there was no income, right? So this is time. This is what happens over time, and this is money. This is what's happening with, or what was happening with my money, okay? And let's say when we get to about here, this was me on, I'll draw it up, right? So this was incremental growth, right? Let's say here, this was where I spoke to you guys earlier, 2013. And at 2013, I said to you guys, I was on around £36,000, okay? So let's say this is my incremental growth. Okay. So a few years on from this, I told you the next year I moved job, 2014, and I told you guys that I was able to secure a job at £47,000. And I said to you guys, this was incremental growth. Okay. And I think it was, who was it? Jibsy. Jibsy says yes, because it's linear. Okay. And Jibsy's absolutely right. This was linear growth, linear progression. Okay. So what would have happened next? Well, it probably wouldn't have happened like this because teaching is kind of like a capped ceiling. But at some stage in the future, I might have got to 50, 60, 70, 80, 100, who knows, right? But what I realized around this time, let's use the highlighter. What I realized around this time was something very interesting. Let me tell you what I realized. If you'd like to know what I realized, just write in the chat, yes, okay? Let me tell you what I realized. Around this time here, when I was on around £47,000 a year, I realized something. What I realized is, even if I got to the top of the teaching financial ladder, okay? The top of the teaching financial ladder is roughly around 200,000 a year, roughly around that. It might be a little bit more, might be a little bit less, okay? 200,000 a year. Now, some of you might be thinking, Samuel, 200,000 a year. I don't know any teachers that get paid that. Yes, because the people that get paid that are called executive heads. And to be on that amount of salary, they're going to have around 5 schools. So with this modern way schools are set up now in academies, you get one head teacher who's a head teacher of multiple schools. So when I left teaching, what I realized is I would have to become an executive head in charge of 5 schools to probably be on around £200,000 a year salary. That was, for me, that was the end of the chain. That was the end of the ladder. That was the top of the building. So I'm on around 47,000 a year. And I said to myself, what's the top? Like, what's the most I can make in this industry? Like, I don't do this for the money. I do this for the children. I love teaching these children. But I know God has created me to do stuff, to have social impact. And I know I can't have that social impact without any money. So how long is it going to take me to make the kind of money I can have some real social impact? And I just sat down and did the maths. And I realized, hold on a minute, to generate something like 250,000 a year in the career I was in, I'd have to get to the top of the ladder and I'd have to control around 5 schools. Now, here's some facts that are interesting. Someone throw in the chat the word facts. Here's some facts that are interesting. Because you might be interested in these facts. I don't know, but I was interested in these facts. And you might not be a teacher. That's okay. But I want you to utilize the things I'm saying to you in your career, whatever career you're in, so you can get out of the increments and get into the exponents. Hopefully this is helping someone. So I thought to myself, listen, there's some facts. Let me look at the facts. Let me share with you some of the facts. One of the facts was this. If I control a school or 5, I'm going to be waking up to start my day probably at 5 a.m. daily. I'm going to be going to bed, or I'm going to be leaving work, leaving the school at the end of every day. I'm going to be ending my work day typically after 5 p.m. Let's just call it 7 p.m. daily. And then I realized something. I realized something very powerful. I realized if I start my day at 5 a.m. every day and I end my day at 7 p.m. every day, even if I have £1 million, I can't spend it. Come on, someone asked me the question in the chat, Samuel, why can't you spend it? Everyone can spend £1 million. If you got £1 million, of course you can spend it. Why can't you spend it? You can't spend it because you don't have any time. You start your day at 5 a.m. No shops are open. You end your day at 7 p.m. All the shops are closing. I realized what this is one of those Jesus moments. In the Bible, Jesus has a powerful verse. He says, what does it profit a man to gain the whole world and lose his soul? That was one of those moments for me. I was like, hold on a minute. So you're telling me, even if I get to the top of the ladder that I'm on, even if I generate 250,000 a year, I'm going to have no time to even spend it. I'm going to have no time to do the social impact work I desire to do the social impact work that I was created to do. I can't support people. I can't help you. Why? Because I'm going to start my days at 5 a.m. and end my days probably working at 7 p.m. This is the problem with increments. You see, people think the problem with increments is I'm not making enough money. The problems with increments, ladies and gentlemen, is not that you're not making enough money. The problem with increments, ladies and gentlemen, is that you do not have any of your own time. You are trading your time for money. Someone write in the chat, not me. That might be your situation right now, but guess what? You can decide. Someone write in the chat, not me. So I decided to make a change. Okay, now obviously I was fortunate in the fact that I was already doing stuff in the field of property. My first job in property was as an estate agent. I worked as an estate agent when I was 19 years old. That was my first ever full-time job. I was already discovering and learning property. Okay, I was already learning that, like that endeavor. That was one of the things I was interested in. How do you make money using other people's money? How do you find great property deals? Okay, these were the things I was interested in back then. Okay, whilst I was a teacher. So that was a benefit for me. Okay, let's go. Oh, what a name. Okay, because of your name, I don't think I can pronounce your name, but let me know your name. This isn't live, is it? This isn't live, is it? Someone let the gentleman or lady who just commented know whether we're live or not. Okay, hi back to you. But what's your name? Let me know your name. Okay, I'm old school, so I like addressing people by their name. All right, let's go. All right, so we're being told great quality. Thank you ever so much. All right, we appreciate you. So let's go deeper. So this was my situation. My situation was I'm working in schools, I'm working as a teacher. I'm getting paid £36,000 a year. I'm leaving one job to go to another job. I'm getting paid £47,000 a year. Like Jibsy said earlier, the problem with this is my financial growth was linear. And by virtue of the fact that it was linear, what did I know? I realized that I'm generating wealth incrementally. Okay, thank you for liking the live. Let's go. So when I started realizing that I'm generating wealth incrementally, I said to myself, hold on a minute, something's got to change. This doesn't work for me. Okay, and that's where I decided to go hard on my property journey. That's where I decided to say, you know what, let me use property to replace my wife's income first, because my wife had some politics that she was going through at work, but then to replace my own income secondarily. So I don't have to live with a chain from my ankle to a salary. You see, I say this often, but most people don't hear it, right? Do you know that the most addictive drug in the UK, Coach Mandy, welcome to the live, she sent a rose. That's awesome. All right. Let's go. Let's go. The chat is blowing up now, right? Guys, do you know that the most addictive drug that I understand in the UK is not cannabis? The most addictive drug in the UK is called a salary. Someone write in the chat the word salary. It's a salary. Every 30 days, people inject themselves. And if they miss that 30-day hit, oh Lord, someone call the cops. Or was it Wycliffe? Wycliffe and Mary J. Blige. Someone please call 911. Guys, I want you to understand how this works. The most addictive drug in our current society is not cannabis. It's not a Class A drug. It's not a Class B drug. It's not a Class C drug. It's the actual drug that the politicians that go and do their own stupidness are addicted to as well. It's the drug of the salary, where if you take someone's away, they will not know what they're going to do to get paid. I submit to you that instead of living an incremental life, you can make a decision today to live an exponential life. Instead of generating incremental income, you can make a decision today to generate exponential income. Let me tell you a quick story. This is super simple. I want to help you guys. This right here is called a seed. Someone write in the chat the word seed. And guess what? You never made it. I never made it. Okay? You never made a seed. I never made a seed. This is why seeds are so powerful. Now let me tell you what seeds do. Seeds don't produce seeds. Seeds produce trees. Now, why is this important, Samuel? I'm going to tell you why this is important. The reason this is so crucially important is because what you have in your hand right now, a salary, what I have in my hand right now, an income, what we have in our hand right now, an opportunity, is a seed. And if you understand the science of a seed, you'll be able to create everything you need. If you understand the science of a seed, you are in the position to create every single thing you need. The problem is, most people have a seed and suffocate or steal from their seed with something which sounds like a seed but is actually called greed. That's the problem. The problem is most people, instead of planting their seed, investing their seed, utilizing their seed to get everything they need, instead they activate greed and end up with no seed and end up with no need. I'm here to tell you, if you leverage your seed, you can create a tree, and the tree will give you everything you need. Here's a beautiful thing about a tree. Think about it for a moment. What does a tree give you? Oh, this is so good. A tree gives you more seeds. A tree gives you fruit. The quality of the fruit comes from a tree's root. A tree gives you shade. A tree gives you a place to play. A tree gives you a brand new day. Oxygen is being exchanged. Guys, I can go on and on. I can even sing a song. I want you to understand how this works. A seed produces everything you need, but most people get rid of their seed because they activate the unhelpful habit of greed. And this is why most people are stuck in the incremental world, because they don't understand the science of a seed. They don't understand that what you have is a key to producing what you desire to have. You see, if you plant a seed, that seed grows roots. The seed breaks through and grows a tree which has fruits. And you and I get to eat the fruit. You can even sell some of the fruit, and inside of every fruit is more tree for you to create more roots. That is not incremental, ladies and gentlemen. So if the science is not incremental, why do we try to create our wealth incrementally? Why do we create our wealth incrementally? I don't know. Someone tell me why. Someone tell me why. I don't know why. Someone tell me why. Why would you do something that goes against the natural order of science? I do not understand why you do that. Let me tell you what I heard from someone before. I heard someone say this before. They said, if you go against human psychology, that is a battle you cannot win. I want you to think about that. You see, in school, a girl likes a boy, but the girl doesn't say she likes the boy. Instead, she tries to fight with the boy. Girl meets boy, girl likes boy. Girl fights with boy, but she actually likes boy. Why is this important? It's human psychology. It's the way things work. But guess what you're going to say? Well, if she likes him, she should just tell him. Yes, she should just tell him, but that's not the way things work. It works the other way around as well. Boy likes girl, boy doesn't tell girl. Instead, boy tries to play games with girl. Why? That's the way things work. It's called human psychology. Now, most people have a JOB. What does JOB stand for? I've been told that it stands for jump out of bed, get on the journey of the broke, so you can stay just over broke. Most people have a JOB. Here's a great question for you and me. If a JOB only pays you incrementally, surely we should do something to help us exponentially. I don't know. You guys have got to tell me. Okay? So if that being said, guys, there's so much more I wanted to share, but I'm going to leave the live right here because it's super late, super early in the morning, depending on where you are in the world. And guys, let me ask you one more time. Where are you guys joining us in the world from? Are you in the UK? Are you in the US of A? Are you in Australasia? Are you in Asia? Let me know where you're tuning in from in this live. Let me know where you're tuning in from in this live. Because in this live, we've been talking about the difference between incremental and exponential growth. Unfortunately, the live got got shut down earlier on. I don't know what happened. I think the computer system in here crashed or something, but we got kicked off the live, so we had to come back live again, and we just broken it all down with a tablet and a pen. So guys, you let me know in the chat If you got value, throw the word value in the chat. Let's open it up. Let's take a question or two. If you guys want to ask any questions, feel free. Now's the time. Now's a great time to throw any questions in that you guys have. We'll take questions just for a minute or two. Let's put a timer up in case, because you guys might not even have questions. But we'll take questions for a moment or two, and then we'll wrap up, and I'll be out of here. I'm going to have to leave you. So we've got a 2-minute timer up for questions. So guys, if you have questions, throw them in. Questions about inflation. I know some of you guys were making comments about the inflation earlier. If you got questions about your income, if you got questions about creating wealth, if you got questions about how to become exponential instead of incremental, let us know, let us know, let us know. All right, so I gave you guys that illustration. You can plant a seed. Your seed can give you everything you need. All right, if you're a coach, stop doing one-on-one coaching, okay? That's going to only create incremental wealth. Instead, create exponential wealth. Position yourself to succeed for yourself. Guys, I want you to understand something. No one is coming to rescue you. No one's going to make your situation better for you. You have to make your situation better for yourself. How do you do that? Accept the help, okay? So me coming live is literally helping you. Me showing you and sharing with you these keys that you can use in order to succeed is supposed to help you. But it's only helpful if you use it. Okay, it's only helpful if you use it. And that actually reminds me of something else as well, right? So guys, for those of you who've been getting value, because I know I shared with you guys earlier that we have our 5-day cash flow creation week that we're actually doing this week. And some of you may be interested in that. If you are interested in that, QR code is on the screen. QR code is on the screen if that's something of interest to you, all right? Literally, that's a good thing. That's the wrong QR code. That's the QR code for our workbook for day 1. This is the right QR code. QR code is on the screen. If you're interested, I've thrown the comment inside of the chat as well. Go and check out the 5-day cash flow creation week. All right. Go and check out our 5-day cash flow creation week where we help you move further, faster in your future. The way we do that is on day 1, we teach you cash flow creation science. Day 2, we teach you the actual cash flow creation strategies. Day 3, we teach you cash flow creation skills. Day 4, which is technically today now, because we're in cash flow creation week right now, we teach you the cash flow creation systems. And day 5, we teach you the cash flow creation success, how to tap into all 5 of these all together. Now, please, please, please don't take a screenshot of the QR code with me looking janky. I don't know how people get screenshots of me looking janky, because I don't usually make janky faces, but every now and then someone might send me a picture with me looking janky around this QR code. But guys, take a screenshot, use the QR code, come and join us on our next up and coming cash flow creation week. The next one is on the 23rd of March, I believe, 23rd of March. Get yourself locked in, secure one of your seats or secure one of these seats, because again, there's limited seats on the program so you can move further faster in your future. Now, with that being said, guys, no questions came in the 2 minutes. I'm going to love you guys. I'm going to leave you guys. I'm going to let you guys move further faster in your future. And I look forward to seeing you guys on another live. As I usually say, good day, God bless. Let's go. And remember, small keys open up big doors. Peace.